Hey, what's up, guys? So, in the last couple of videos that we've looked at and gone through together, we've been talking about the far left. We've been talking about communism. Now we're shifting gears to the far right. And the far right, of course, embodies the ideology of fascism. With fascism, the first individual to really bring it to the forefront is the guy that you see on the screen, a man by the name of Benito Mussolini. Mussolini was an interesting guy. He grew up as a socialist. He grew up believing in wealth redistribution and all the basic things that socialists believe. However, as time moves forward and Mussolini is a soldier fighting for Italy in World War I, he has a sort of awakening. While fighting the war, he sees the value of nationalism. He sees the value of unity amongst people. And this is really the driving force that we see moving forward for this ideology called fascism. Now, in this assignment, really quickly, what I want to do with you is just go over and explain the important aspects of fascism that you should know, and these will help you better understand what we see in Germany. Of course, in Germany, they don't call it fascism, they call it Nazism. And Nazism is just basically Mussolini's fascism with a little Salt Bay, a little sprinkling of racial ideology in there, which makes it that much more terrible. So anyways, yeah, let's move down here and start talking about what fascism believes. All right, so point number one when it comes to what fascism believes, it says fascists despise peace. So they dislike peace. What they want is perpetual war. Pacifism, as it mentions on the screen, turning the other cheek, not wanting conflict, they argue is for weak people. Now, there's one thing I want you to truly understand about fascism, and that's the idea that everything done in a fascist state is to make the state slash nation, right? Same thing, the state or nation stronger. If it does anything, it should be adding strength to the nation. So fascists despise peace. What do they want? Constant war. And of course, do we see that? Once Hitler comes to power in Germany, absolutely, right? We know that fascist states are militaristic states. And guys, the reason for this is it's almost along the lines of social Darwinism, which is an idea that we've spoke about before in class, but I really want to touch upon it here as well. We know that Charles Darwin speaks about this idea of survival of the fittest in his book, The Origin of Species, right? Basically, what fascists believe is the idea of social Darwinism, which is this idea of survival of the fittest applied to human society. And when one society or one country goes to war with another country, inevitably it will be the strong who conquer the weak. And when fascists look to take out another country, what do they gain from it? Well, they gain resources, they gain people. Excuse me. And do these resources and people serve the interests of the state, which is going out and conquering? Absolutely, right? These resources are making the state stronger. Also, with war, guys, comes the idea of the weak dying off. So the strong will survive and the weak will die off. In the end, the state, the nation, will be stronger because of the war. Now, point number two, life is based upon duty, struggle, and conquest. Now, duty to what? Duty to the state, duty to the nation, right? We serve the nation. That is our MO in a fascist state, is to serve the greater good, which sounds rather collectivist because it is. And I know this is weird and we've talked about this before, but fascism is a collectivist ideology. The individual does not matter in the fascist state. I know that we think of fascism as being a far-right ideology. However, it is collectivist, and we typically associate collectivism with the left-hand side of the spectrum. So you got to kind of wrap your brain around that idea of fascism being collectivist in nature. It's not about you, it's about the state. Now, struggle. Why is struggle good according to a fascist? Well, struggle breeds strength. When people go through tough times, inevitably what happens is people will learn how to persevere. Is that good for the overall strength of a nation? The answer is absolutely yes. And then conquest, we spoke about that with the last point as well. Conquest means to go out and take over others, right? To go to another country and seize their resources, to take them over, to go to war with them. And again, this is all for the betterment of the strength of the nation. All right, moving on. Number 3. I'll just move this one down here. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. So point number 3 says fascism hates Marxism. And we will definitely see this when we see Hitler and the Nazis. So it says fascism hates Marxism and its insistence on class as what defines people. Now, we know that in Marxist ideology, there are two groups, right? Generally, the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. Fascists basically say all that thinking does is it drives a wedge between the people of the nation, right? If you're bourgeois, you're bourgeois. If you're proletariat, you're part of the working class. And that just serves to separate people instead of having them come together as this one organic whole. So this insistence on class does nothing to unite the nation and make it stronger. So this class divide is something that serves to separate people. And this isn't what fascism wants. And we also know, guys, that Marxism, right, communism, is based on the idea of equality. And in fact, fascists deny the idea of equality, right? Fascists want the smartest, the most intelligent, the strongest, the most well-bred to be the ones who lead the nation. Rather than equality, what fascists believe in is this idea of elitism. Some are just better than others. And we really see this idea of elitism drive the ideological push for purity in Nazi Germany. It is believed by Hitler and the Nazis that the Aryan people, right, blonde hair, blue eyes, the Teutonic people, are the most evolved, the smartest, the strongest, and this allows them to basically see other people who aren't Aryan as unworthy of life. And ultimately, we see it play out in the form of eugenic policies, which are horrifying in Nazi Germany, and also in the demonization of Jews, right? The gassing, and of course, this ultimately leads to the Holocaust. So anyways, sort of derailed a little bit there from what we're looking at with Marxism, but just understand, guys, that Marxist, this insistence on inequality, fascists argue, only serves to drive a wedge between the people of the nation, and that's not good. When people are separate rather than unified, that's not adding to the strength of the nation. That's only serving to separate them, which is not good. All right, point number 4. Fascism hates democracy. Now, why would that be? Well, let's think about this for a sec. Democracy is supposed to be a system where the people choose the leaders, right? But does democracy always choose the best leader? I mean, guys, let's face it, when it comes to democracy, and I don't know, maybe we've seen this lately, sometimes the person who is elected as the winner of a democratic election might not be the best choice for leadership, right? Maybe, I don't know. So, anyways, fascists would argue that democratic elections are nothing but popularity contests between people who are vacuous, and it just becomes a contest to see who has the best campaign ads, the best pamphlets, the best posters, right? There's no real substance there. It's all just sort of glossed over, and it's forgotten about. So that's a problem with democracy, would argue fascists. Now, to further their hatred of democracy, fascists also hate the fact that in a democratic state, you give equal measure to the intelligent and well-bred as you do to the unintelligent and foolish, for lack of a better term, right? The ill-bred. And let's face it, guys. I mean, if you if you walk down the street, sometimes you might see some people doing some pretty stupid things, right? And are those the people that you want to lead the nation? Are those the people that you want making decisions as far as who should be the person in power in our country? Well, probably not. To go even further from an elitist standpoint, and again, remembering that fascists believe in this, like you could make a pretty strong argument that, in fact, democracy is, simply just sort of like a tyranny of the majority, right? And fascists do not believe that from the ignorant masses will we choose the best leader for our society. Now, to go even further with this idea, fascists believe in this idea of what is called great man theory. And great man theory is this idea that certain people will just kind of rise to the top and lead the nation to greatness. Mussolini believed that he was a great man. Hitler believed that he was a great man. Hitler said something to the effect of, no sooner will a camel fly through the eye of a needle than will democracy choose the best individual to lead a country, right? Like he's just, it's not going to happen. Okay, moving on. Number 5. Number 5 says man is inherently unequal or unequal, and some are more apt to be leaders than others. And again, guys, this is that idea of fascist inequality. We see people on the left, right? Their entire MO, everything they do is to try to create equality in society. And again, fascists just straight out deny the idea of equality. We are not all equal. And let's think about this for a second, right? Are we all equal in terms of our mental abilities? Well, no. I mean, some people are smarter than others. Are we all equal in terms of our physical abilities? No, that just is not true at all, right? Are we all equal when it comes to our mathematical, musical abilities, our athletic abilities? Absolutely not. So basically, the argument that fascists make is this insistence on equality denies the reality of human beings. So why not just accept the fact that we are not equal, and let's just make sure that the best and the brightest are the ones who step up and lead our nation to something better. Now, number 6, the state, or more appropriately, the nation, is the most important entity, not the individual. Guys, when we think of fascism, right, when you learned about it in grade 11 here in Alberta, you should have learned about the idea of ultra nationalism. When you learned about ultra nationalism, you were introduced to the idea of fascism. Fascism is an ultra-nationalist ideology. The state or the nation is number one. So really, all that fascism does is it replaces the idea of the worker in Marxist ideology and just kind of plunks in the state or the nation, right? So you just replace one thing with another, but it is still very much a collectivist ideology. Now, moving on, Fascist Manifesto point number 7, imperialism is the healthiest expression of the state. Okay, imperialism. This is more of a grade 10 topic here in Alberta, but let's talk about what it is. Imperialism means it's when a nation goes out and conquers another. Now, why do nations typically go out and conquer other nations? Resources. When you conquer a nation and you take their resources, you are basically pursuing your own national interests, right? You are gaining things that will make your state or nation stronger. Now, the question is, did Mussolini, the father of fascism, did they go out and conquer other nations? And the answer is yes. They Italy under Mussolini conquered the mighty nation of what at that time was called Abyssinia. Today it is called Ethiopia. So the nation of Italy went to war with Abyssinia. Mussolini called it the greatest war, the greatest colonial war of all times. The nation of Italy committed war crimes at this time. They used like poison gas to basically slaughter any of the Abyssinian fighters, which were trying to resist Italian subjugation. So anyways, that was what we saw in Italy. However, what about Germany? Did Germany engage in imperialism? Well, when we look at Germany, you will see, guys, that the answer is an absolute definite yes. When you learn about German history, you'll hear the word Lebensraum, and this word means living space. In the living space of your enemy are resources, and Hitler and the Nazis look to gain this for the greater good of the German nation. And of course, Lebensraum some of it came from the west, to the west of Germany, right? Like in France, but a huge percentage of that Lebensraum that the Nazis were trying to capture was going to come from the east of Germany and eventually into the Soviet Union, right? By taking out the Soviet Union, Hitler and the Nazis were doing two things. Number one, they are destroying a communist enemy. And again, we know that fascists hate communism because of their insistence towards equality. And number two, the Soviet Union is a massive nation, and it has vast resources. If Germany could gain that land for itself, it would be a huge win for the Aryan people of Germany. So imperialism is basically a nation flexing its muscles, right? It's going out there, it's showing what it's got. It's strutting on the national stage, and nations that aren't engaging in imperialism are weak, and they're going to be conquered. Again, social Darwinism plays into what we see with fascism here, what we see with imperialism, right? If you're not a conqueror, you are going to be conquered. So either, win or lose. That's just how it is. And then number eight, and this is kind of reiterating a little bit already of what we've looked at. The individual must serve the state through duty and sacrifice of their selfish desires in order to ensure the health of the nation. Again, what is the important aspect within the fascist state? Well, first of all, it's the state, and the state is embodied by the leader, right? So it's the state, the leader, that is it. And in Germany, right, the leader was called Il Duce, which means the leader. And in Germany, of course, we had the Führer, which also means the leader. And your job as a member of that nation is to obey the leader at all times, to put yourself secondary and to think about how you can make the nation or the state stronger. Okay, so guys, that is a quick little tour into fascism land. And then what we're going to do in the next module is start to look at some of the things that Hitler and the Nazis did, right? Like this little intro to Mussolini. Mussolini is important, right? But really, guys, we see fascism really come to maturity in Germany in the 1930s, where we see Hitler and the Nazis really take it to its extreme extent. So, all right. Anyways, that is that. And we will see you again. Peace, ladies and gentlemen.